For several years, I'd been kind of working on upgrading my LinkedIn game. And, as things do, the platform changes and, putting out quality content, which I always want to do, became a little harder and harder. And the more that I was watching kind of what Brandon was doing with his Mastering Modern Selling show, it really intrigued me. And the more I was guest on other podcasts, I was learning not only is it, created for that original or that initial, posting, but then the content lives on after that. And what you do with that can be really valuable. So the idea of starting a show where we could pull content and then use it in a number of different ways was definitely something we wanted to kind of lean into. And, to be honest, it wasn't like I went looking for other groups to see what they could offer just because Fist Bump and Brandon in particular had been such a great partner through, the entire process. Cause I was a coaching client for almost a year before the show started. So it was just the natural progression of the process. It didn't come down to like you were a better choice than other people. It was you were the only folks that I was going to go with in order to make it happen. We were struggling a little bit with the cost, but Fist Bump made us a great offer to make it much more affordable for us if we would agree to have Fist Bump be a co-sponsor of the show, and that made a lot of sense. It's an easy ask because I do believe wholeheartedly in the product and the service. But certainly, the reduction in cost for us as a company was really helpful as well. It was made as easy as possible for us. And honestly, Fist Bump really just stepped in and really kind of held our hand and did pretty much all of the heavy lifting. The voiceovers for the creation, of the intro and the outro was all done, by Fist Bump. We weighed in on kind of what that voiceover artist would say. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you guys pretty much handled everything, which made it super easy. In addition, our producer, Juana, is wonderful. She's a super sweet, very organized, wonderful young woman who, keeps me between the sticks. She's always kind of reaching out and helping with like, hey, you know, here teeing up here the next few weeks of guests, just, keep in mind what we're doing, and just makes doing this as easy as possible. I think that was one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about. It's like, wow, this is the heavy lift. It's going to take a ton of my time and I don't have that extra time. It's a really easy process for us to internalize. I feel like we're kind of totally on the same team. We're rowing together. The more that she sees our show, the more she understands what we're trying to do and say. And she herself has become a bit of a fan, and she looks forward to learning about the event industry, which is really cool because it helps, I think, her and us see things through a different lens, so that she can kind of direct us and maybe move us, a little bit here or there, because she gets what we're trying to say at this point. It's helped build my reputation. I was at a trade show, an industry show recently within the last month or so, and the number of people who came up to me and said, I'm seeing what you're putting out there in the way of content on LinkedIn. I see what you're doing with the show. Loving that. It's been really great to become a little bit more recognizable, as it were, within my industry. I'm not an influencer by any means, but I am looking to become influential and hopefully develop a voice where people not just take me seriously because I have a very casual type of a way about me, I think, but, be able to see kind of both sides of who I am and appreciate hopefully what BlueHive, myself, are doing for the industry, helping kind of up level folks and give them access to great content for anybody connected to the event industry in any way, to be able to kind of tune in, see what we're talking about, and hopefully, that puts us into a different frame of mind for them. If they're ever considering using our services, we're going to be much more likely to be top of mind. Leaning on Fist Bump to really kind of run with the heavy lift that's involved with putting a show together has been tremendous. Um, in all honesty, initially when I had the idea that I wanted to do the show, I did reach out to Brandon, but I ultimately said, hey, can I just hire you as a consultant and give me the inside scoop? How do we do this? He kind of gave me a playbook. and I tried to execute it along with the help of my podcast co-host, and we could not get it off the ground. It was just too much to do. We were not confident of our own skill set in pulling it all together. The platform and the intro and the outro and the voiceover artist and the artwork and everything that goes along with pulling together the show in the very beginning. But then, once you get that and get that launched, there's still the week to week. There's the booking of the guests. There's the managing of the actual platform while you're recording and you're broadcasting. We have done both recorded as well as live shows, and there's plenty of stress that's connected to all of that stuff. So when have to own all that stress and everything else, there's just a lot there. So it's been a great experience for us to use Fist Bump to basically take that, that stress balloon, hand it to the Fist Bump team and say, you know what, I'm just going to worry about what I have to show up and talk about. And everything else is done by you guys, which is great. Business opportunities have risen from the show since it launched, and it's been a number of things. It's not a situation where you do a couple of podcasts and POs come raining out of the sky, as Brandon likes to say. But as those relationships get deeper, then the opportunities start showing up. So one thing that happened kind of early on in the mix is that one of our VPs, Dana, who actually joins me as a guest host a number of times, she was invited to be part of an article written by an industry magazine, and they were ultimately they found us through the podcast, which was great. And then, so one channel begets another channel at the same time, right? Which is great. And we actually are in the middle of doing some design work for a production company that was one of the guests that we had on. And it's been really great for us to get to know them a little bit better, them to get to know us, and vice versa. And they brought us into an opportunity that they were initially exposed to. And immediately they're like, we thought of BlueHive because of those great conversations that we were having connected to the podcast. So, no actual revenue realized right now, but all we can ask for is an opportunity or a seat at the table and a chance to get our foot in the door and then see what we can do from there. In addition, it's been really cool to see past guests and current listeners of the podcast connect with each other and start relationships and start, having conversations that are going to potentially yield great opportunities for them. So the idea that we're creating this meeting place for a community of event professionals is really very cool. Not something we set out to do, but I think the more that we're, viewed at the center of this event community, the more opportunities will come our way. I think what I like most is the peace of mind, knowing that regardless of how much kind of pre-work that I'm able to put into it for that week, that I'm not going to show up and look like an idiot, right? It's like, that's this fear of messing up, right? The FOMO is real, and we don't want to. That's I think one thing, and there's many things that keep people from doing, shows and live events, and it's time and it's effort. And it's also the fear of showing up and not sounding like you know what you're talking about. And I think the work that Fist Bump does behind the scenes and, vetting out the questions that we're going to talk about with our guests and building that confidence that everything is going to go as well as can be expected. And granted, technology goes down every now and then, internet doesn't work and things happen. But we always figure out a way to make it through. And they also help me to understand that we're capturing a moment in time, and it's a conversation, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So knowing that I'm going to come off sounding as informed and as connected as possible is a great feeling. And also at the same time, understanding that I don't have to be perfect with this. Really, the real win is creating valuable conversations between people, and those conversations aren't always perfect, right? You misquote yourself, you stumble, you say the wrong thing, but at the end of the day, it all comes together, and they help us pull together and produce thoughtful and well-intentioned conversations that kind of move the needle within our community. Yes, I would absolutely recommend Fist Bump to really anybody who's looking to, start a live show and podcast. They take so much of the heavy lift off of your plate. There's a lot of things to do, and there's There was too much for me to try to do on my own or even with the help of another person, because we did not know what we were doing. So you basically hand over really your goals and your desires, and dreams to the team at Fist Bump, and they do everything else. There's more to it than just showing up, but not a lot more.